Daftaboutcraft, the craft beer podcast.
Well, regular listeners to the podcast will know that on episode 39, we did a special Brew to Me episode where we spoke to brewers who we hadn't spoken to before and tried their beers for the first time. And one of those breweries was Missing Link. I'm very happy to say that right now I'm sat in Missing Link's tap room in West Sussex with owner of the brewery, Jeremy. How's it going?
Yeah, good. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's nice to be here.
Welcome to our brewery and tap room.
And what an amazing space it is as well. You're set on a 360-acre estate.
It is a magical estate. People don't realise when they come from the main road quite what we've got here.
Yeah.
And sort of come down and it just opens up into this beautiful place to work in and live in and brew at.
So Missing Link is a brewery. What inspired that name?
When we originally started, we were looking at the wine world, which I originally was working in, that a lot of wineries and vineyards work in cooperatives. And we looked, if we're going to start a brewery, what better way than do it in a cooperative way, where other breweries that wouldn't have the finances or aren't big enough yet to buy their own kit and start their own brewery could share the equipment with us. And so we, in effect, are the missing link between those brewers having their homebrew kit and being able to go to market. There's a few other reasons we chose that name. Another is the legendary Piltdown Man Missing Link, the hoax, which is just down the road from here, Piltdown. And then also we have a Neolithic cave on site, which sort of also has that sort of missing link sort of feel to it. So that's where we got the name from.
But there's quite a few breweries who our listeners would know about who actually started off here before they expanded into their own sites.
Yes. Yeah. There's a few that we've either done contracts for or have actually come and brewed here, which has been great for us. I originally started off in the wine world, and although there's a lot of transferable skills, I hadn't actually brewed a beer until I started this. And so having all these amazing people coming through here and actually brewing here, I got to learn
You
from
learned
them.
stuff as well.
And there's been a lot of to and fro of information, like from me to them to me. So that's been great.
And I've just had a look, just before we sat down to record this, I just had a look around the brewery area. And that is some equipment in a very compact space. You're utilising every inch of ground in there.
Absolutely.
I hadn't heard of your brewery until a few months ago. And there's a lot of high-tech equipment in there that I wouldn't have expected you to have.
Yeah, when we started it off, we started with a Braumeister kit, which is a 500 litre kit.
There's some jump from that to what you have now.
Yeah, we outgrew that very quickly. And then we were looking at what do we actually want to purchase and what are our aims going forwards. And we wanted to carefully buy that we were future-proofing ourselves in a way, rather than spending a lot of money on an in-between kit. Mm. So we're brewing with a brew length at the moment that we are happy with. We don't envisage going massive. This is lovely and controllable. Certainly, we were influenced by the styles of beers that we like to brew, especially with the New England sort of phase. We were sort of brewing that really right at the beginning of it hitting the UK. And a lot of the kit that we've got is actually around brewing that sort of style, which we've been quite renowned for. But also it means that we don't have to have a massive amount of staff. The fact that a lot of our brewing is automated means that me and Mike, my assistant in the brewery, can pretty much do everything ourselves.
So it's just the two of you then, really?
Well, there's just the two of us full time in there, and then we have other staff that, like some of the taproom staff and that, who do shifts ad hoc as needed in the brewery.
And we should talk about your canning line as well, because that is some piece of kit, isn't it? It's some piece of machinery. You are a nano brewery, we should say.
Yes.
And there's not many nano breweries out there, even with canning lines, let alone one as sophisticated as the one you've got.
Well, right from the beginning, one of my fundamental things is quality of product, and packaging is where it can all go wrong. You know, you can produce a fantastic beer and then you go and can it, and 2 months later it's all brown and cardboardy, and you know what's happened, but you didn't have the kit or the equipment to make sure that didn't happen.
Yeah.
We did start off with contract canning. And I'm a tiny bit of a control freak, and I basically was relying on other
people to make sure.
And 9 times out of 10, if anything went wrong, it would tend to be when we were relying on somebody else.
Yeah.
So we decided very early on that we wanted to do everything in-house. And so the packaging side was fundamental. And, you know, without it, we wouldn't have made it through lockdown. You know, everything turned to small pack. And if we had just been a keg brewery, we'd have been in trouble.
Yeah. Most of the beers you make are pales, aren't they? Why pales?
Well, 2 reasons. One, we enjoy brewing those style of beers. We're very influenced by the American market. When we went to try out our new brew kit over in the States, we discovered these incredible hop-forward New England or West Coast IPAs, and that has been a huge influence on what we brew today. You know, we still do other beers, you know, like our New Zealand Pilsner, which is a twist on an IPL stroke Pilsner, and other styles like our Mocha Porters and things like that. But fundamentally, we've been known for our New England styles.
And your core range that you do, it's quite expansive, isn't it?
It is. We get asked quite often, like, why do you have so many beers in your core range? And the reason being is because every time I think something's not in the core range, we brew a batch of it and then we don't brew it again, and then I get hassled into, well, when you bring that back out again.
Yeah.
And our customer base is very much repeatability customers who like a beer and want to carry on buying that beer. You know, there's the 2 different markets. There is the sort of tick off a list on beers, and sort of there are some of our customers who will only ever have when we bring out a new beer, which is great. But we've got others who will want a 6-pack, a 12-pack, a 24-pack,
and that's what
the
business relies more on as well. That those repeat customers coming in and buying those sort of beers again and again.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's a big target for us. And the beauty of it as well is our biggest market is direct customer, and that gives us the opportunity to actually speak to our customers, find out what they like, what they don't like, and sort of develop our beers around that.
Do you find yourself sort of hovering around the tap room watching people drinking your beers?
Not necessarily hovering. I quite often go up to people and sort of say, hi, how you doing? Are you enjoying the beers? If they don't like it, what do you not like about it? You know, it's such a great source of finding out what people are enjoying.
And do you get that honesty from people? Will they say, I don't like this?
Yes, I think we will. I think the fact that we come across very approachable. Rachel, who works in the tap room, loves a good chat and chats away to all the customers, and we put people very much at ease here to the point where I think people do feel they can be honest, especially as a lot of our customers are regulars here. We know them by name, we chat to them all the time, and so getting feedback from them is fundamental for us.
And where we sit here in the tap room, the brewery is just, I can see it right in front of me. Do you think, I was talking to you a bit about this before, do you think people like to come here and be so close to the brewery and see the brewery right outside the door there? Or do you think most people are not interested in that sort of thing?
I think there's a split in that.
Right.
There's some people who absolutely love being able to come here and see the kit and see the shiny bits and come on the brewery tours, which are really popular. But there's others who are coming here for our food offering as well, and aren't actually bothered whether there's a brewery there or not. So it's very much a split with us. I'd say, you know, it's great for those diehard beer drinkers who love the story of the brewery and the kit, which is great. We cover that, but we've also got people who just want to come down here, have good food and have good beer, and we cover that as well. So it works for us.
I mean, it's a great business model. You've got all bases covered, really, haven't you? Here with the food as well. Now, something we should talk about is sustainability, because this is something you're really big on, and the whole ethos here is about that.
Yes. Well, being on a farm and in such a beautiful part of Sussex and part of the country, very much we're at one with what we have around us. You know, we're in the high Weald area of outstanding natural beauty here. We've got waterways here, we've got ancient woodland. And so very much for us, it has to be sustainable for where we are. Breweries are renowned for having problems with their waste and etc. So right from the word go, we sort of looked at how we can reduce that and make sure that we're being as eco-conscious as we possibly can. That way we're not relying on anybody else. Our actual waste that we have that goes away from here is very, very minimal. Down to in the tap room here, you'll see we have everywhere is labelled for different things, plastics, tin, everything. We've even got a chap who comes and collects all of our cans and mini keg aluminium, and that all goes to charity. He sort of crushes them all and takes them off. So yeah, it's very important for us.
Even down to your spent grain, for example, where does that go to?
That goes to the farm just down the road.
Yeah.
That goes for cattle feed. All of our hops and yeast goes into composting, which goes back onto the estate and is used for fertiliser and for adjusting pHs on the soils. We've actually planted a massive field of Maris otter as a winter crop over this winter just gone. So fingers crossed, if the weather's all good, we'll be actually utilising our own grain.
So it kind of all goes full circle here.
Absolutely. It needs to be when you're we're not on an industrial site.
Yeah.
A lot of our visitors are walkers and come here. We're on two byways that converge directly just outside the door here. So we need to make sure that we're working as one with the environment. It's hard work for breweries because we are not renowned for being the most environmental. And so by actually breaking it down to every little bit, we've got solar panels, all our heating comes from biomass, we replanting hedgerows, we're replanting old oaks on the estate that were knocked down during the Great Storm. So all of these things together are helping us reduce our carbon footprint. And we're very close to getting to a point where we're almost carbon neutral. We're not quite there yet, but we're working hard to get there.
We were talking a little bit as we were walking around the brewery before about the sort of current economic climate and the costs. As a business owner and a brewer, does this worry you, the spiralling costs of everything? Everything is going up, and CO2, for example, was a big one you were mentioning.
Yes, it does. I think it worries every business owner, regardless of whether you run a brewery, anybody in manufacturing at the moment. We're all going through the same stresses, and you're constantly hoping to see the other side. And I think it's a survival game at the moment. It's being able to make it through. We're all hoping to see energy costs come down, CO2 costs come down, etc. But it is a stress, and we're sort of got to look at the fact that we employ staff, being able to keep them in work and so on. So there is a lot of responsibility for us as business owners. But, we stand up to the challenge and we keep going forwards.
We should say, actually, how long have you been going for? When did you start?
We started in 2017. 5 years now. We're coming into our 6th year.
Of course, we lost pretty much 2 years of that with COVID.
Yeah. Well, we didn't lose.
Well, you didn't actually, did you?
As a brewery, we were very lucky. Not lucky that there was COVID, but just lucky that we were able to operate through COVID. Day one of COVID, the lockdown came out, and I was like, "Oh, here we go. We're going to have to stop production." We didn't know where we were going. All of a sudden, I was thinking, "Well, what am I going to do to occupy my time?" I signed up for a couple of online degree stuff I wanted to do, but never had the time to do. And then 2 days later, we were told, oh, actually, we could open up our shops. The breweries could actually sell from their tap rooms or shops. So that sort of changed the situation for us dramatically. We'd literally just invested a huge amount of money on this tap room, literally opened it a couple of months before COVID. And then all of a sudden we were like, well, what do we do with it?
You must have felt utter despair at that point when you spent all this money on creating what is one of the most amazing spaces in a tap room I've ever seen. And then you're told, oh, no, you can't do anything. Yeah,
it was, especially when we didn't know what direction it was going to go in.
Yeah.
And my wife said, right, let's open it as a shop. So we moved the counters to by the door, open that up, and people could come and use it without coming into the tap room. And then when they said that beer gardens could open, we applied for a license for our field because we didn't have a beer garden at that time, and luckily got a license for that.
Which you can now use going forward as well.
Absolutely, because we're licensed now, ongoing. So so every year we sort of open that up in the spring, and it's open right the way through to the autumn.
Tell us a story about the donuts.
Oh, the donuts, the famous donuts. So Becky, my wife, is the garden chef, and we had all these people coming to buy beer because luckily we had the canning line that we were talking about earlier, so we could do small pack. And we had everybody coming for that. And Becky was like, well, I'll make a few bits, like some brownies and some donuts. And she's very good at what she does. And so she was making these elaborate brownies and donuts. And they became pretty famous around here. We had queues of people waiting for the donuts that would sell out within 2 hours on a Saturday. So, it was pretty crazy.
I mean, that is adapting. That's what you call being adaptive to changing circumstances, isn't it? And you've got to be, I think, these days.
Absolutely. I think that's where we're a family business. We are really as independent as you could possibly get.
Yeah.
Kids are involved, everyone's involved in this tap room and the brewery, that we have got those opportunities to adapt. And you need to. We're constantly doing that. Even, we're going through tough times as a industry at the moment, and everyone's looking at ways to adapt and change and do things. And so, we're the same.
And your business runs very much alongside your wife's business as well, because she does a lot of the food here in the tap room, and you have tap room events. Yeah,
it didn't start off that way. When we originally started off, Becky was doing she does a lot of outside catering, sort of big events like weddings and big, like the South of England show events and things like that. She didn't really have the time for doing stuff in the tap room, so we started off doing food trucks like a lot of places.
Yeah.
And we realised that we were missing a trick, really, because Becky does incredible food.
As we sampled last night.
Yeah, so we looked at how can we adapt what she does to utilising the tap room. And we've had to sort of upgrade a kitchen from a production kitchen to a service kitchen and things like that. But it means that we've brought that into the fold, which is great from both sides of the business. It works really well for that.
And you were saying that you do Sunday roast events here, and you get all sorts of people coming.
There's so many walks of life that come here. We get people who absolutely love craft beer and just they live for it. We get some people who just won't touch beer, So we've made the space very inclusive, right down to making sure there's plenty of selection for people who drive and don't want to drink, for kids, something for everybody, for families.
I can see a whole few shelves of board games from where I'm sitting right now.
Absolutely.
And if I look in the other direction, I can see the bar down there, and there's a big selection of soft drinks. One of my wife's biggest bugbears when we get to tap rooms, she often drives us around, is that, we want some other interesting drinks, and you've got them here,
Yeah, I think we've curated it very much as for everyone, like you say. But even down to the fact that we always say, like, we've got 3 toilets for the ladies, because a lot of tap rooms sort of forget sort of who's using it, and quite often there's facilities that aren't put there. We've made sure there's baby changing facilities and things like that, so fully accessible to anybody. So
you touched on a point a minute ago that I want to pick up on about some people come here maybe driving or they don't like a drink. You don't actually drink that much yourself, do you?
I'm not a huge drinker, no. I do if I'm going out. I do a lot of tasting of beer, and I'm tasting our beers all the way through the brewing process. So if I was to sort of drink a pint of each, it would be a bit messy, and God knows what the beers would turn out like, because they all taste great, I think, at that point.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm not a huge drinker. I do it sociably, but not a huge one on my own. Quite happy to sit with people and chat all night without actually drinking too much.
Yeah, one thing we should say about this tap room is we're sat here now. It's not that warm outside, but it's lovely and warm in here. And one of the big things for somebody who goes to a lot of tap rooms like me, and we sit in a lot of cold tap rooms in the winter. You're there with your hat and your scarf on. You don't need any of that here.
One of the beauties of when we designed the tap room here is these used to be old workshops, and actually for the dairy, for where there was a unhealthy cow or one of the cows wasn't milking properly, it was almost like the hospital in here. So we had something that we could start right from word go.
Yeah.
So we looked at the fact that we've got biomass heating, district heating on the estate. So we plumbed in for that. Also, we insulated the building really well. There's nothing worse than the middle of winter trying to enjoy a pint and you're sat there and you're shaking. So that was really good for us. And one of the reasons why we did keep the tap room slightly separate from the brewery, because the two are sometimes very hard to, you want the brewery to be cool because you're trying to keep the beer cold, but you want your customers to be warm. So by having that slight separation, it's really made a difference.
And we were talking before we started recording, about expansion and what the future may hold. And you have other buildings here you could expand into, but I get the impression that really you're really happy where you are.
The equipment that we've got, we're not utilising it anywhere near we could. We're utilising it probably to about a quarter of its potential. You know, we've already got 17 fermenters in there, and we could go a lot bigger than that because of the design of the kit means that we can batch brew. Many times we can do up to 4-5 batches a day. So there is room for expansion, certainly with the current economic situation all of us are in. We're quite happy at the level that we're at. We know how much we're making. We're not owing lots of money out or anything like that. We're in a reasonably good place at the moment. So that is really important for us. We don't want to try and go massive expansion plans and sort of put ourselves in a position where we're under big pressure for that.
I think you're in quite a unique position here. Like you say, you don't owe lots of money to anybody. You're in control of everything, aren't you? And there's probably a lot of breweries out there and listening to this who aren't in that position.
The thing is, we did look at all these bounce-back loans and everything that were sort of offered during the pandemic and towards the end of the pandemic, and we talked about it, me and my business partner, that the interest rates were really low, and if there was a time to sort of take on debt, that was it. But we realised it's going to have to be paid back at some point.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what that interest rate is; you've still got to pay it.
Exactly. So we decided that we would work with what we've got, and that's the position so that we stayed in. Yes, we have expanded it and getting some extra tanks and looking at equipment that makes it easier for us to do our job. Things that make sure that the quality of the beer stays at a level that we want it to be. But yeah, without sort of going mad.
One thing that is noticeable, your brand really, really stands out. You can quite obviously turn your hand to anything, but you actually designed the brand yourself as well, as it turned out.
Well, in a way, yes. We did sort of put it out for being branded, paying for it to be done, and we didn't actually like what was given back to us. So we decided to just go really simple. We've got a great logo that we love and everyone seems to love, and we've decided to put that center forward on it and keep the design really simple. Just go back to basics of differentiating things with colors. And
so your cans, they're all black.
Yeah.
And if you've got them they're all slightly different colours, and if you line them up, I've got a row of your cans at home, they look amazing together. And they stand out such a mile from many other cans. Well,
yeah, it's sort of retail 101, I think. You want your products to really stand out and amongst other products. And there's so many great designed cans that they look amazing, but quite often I'd walk into a bottle shop or, somewhere that's selling lots of cans of beer, and there's just an expanse of colour which looks amazing, but it doesn't differentiate very much between brands. And we were like, well, actually, let's look at how we can sort of stand out a bit, and that's where we went down that route.
Something that always fascinates me is the working life of a brewer. So we got here yesterday evening about 5 o'clock, and you finished work at about 8 o'clock, 8:30?
Yeah.
What time did you start yesterday?
About 7:30. Yeah, no, they are long days. I think.
Do you ever think, what am I doing this for?
Yeah, it's a passion, really. I absolutely love my job. I do like to know exactly what's in all of my beers. I love the feedback that we get from the beers. And because of having the tap room and meeting my customers and chatting about the beers, you get such a great feeling from doing that, that actually you don't mind putting in the hard work. And we live on site. The brewery is, some people say it's my man cave, but it very much is, a whole family enterprise. And so, yes, they are long hours, but they're good long hours. I enjoy them. I wouldn't want to be sat in an office or anything like that. I'm actually doing things with my hands, and we're creating things.
And how many days a week are you actually working?
7 days a week.
Nice.
Yeah. So
because you're on site, is the temptation that you're always on duty? You can never sort of switch off from the brewery?
yes, I think there's positives and negatives. Positives are that I always know what's going on. We're always in control of things. We always know that the cooling's working. We know that everything is doing what it should do. The negative side is it is quite hard to get away from it. You know, quite often I'm still in the brewery at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, sort of catching up on things, paperwork and that. We are a very small team. We haven't got loads of employees doing individual things. We're very much a bit of everything. Mike, who works in the brewery with me, sort of gets involved in all sides of the brewery. We get involved in the packaging and the brewing, sending out the beers, and we also utilise taproom staff who come in and help us in the brewery. So yes, there are a lot of positives, but the positives outweigh the negatives.
That's what I was going to say. It seems that you're very happy with what you're doing. The positives spur you on. You know, your working day. Describe a typical working day.
It depends on what we're doing. So coming into work, it's usually getting the boiler on first thing in the morning because that's fundamental. So quite often I'll pop out before I've even showered or anything like that and just get the boiler on.
And what time will that be?
Depend if we're brewing, if we're doing a double or a triple brew, that can be 6 o'clock in the morning. Mm-hmm. Get that up and running, mashing in for about 7. On a triple brew day. If it's a double brew day, we're mashing in for about 7:30. And if it's a double brew day, we're finished by about 4:30, 5 o'clock on the brewing side. You know, if it's a triple brew day, about 6:30, 7 o'clock. Around that, there's a lot of other things like designing the beers, making sure all the bills are paid. So I'm at my desk quite a lot, sort of getting all of that done. Getting all the admin side done. So, yeah, it very much varies from day to day.
The reason I ask is because I think, you know, for people like me and people listening to this who go around to a lot of breweries and tap rooms, to us it's like, oh, this glamorous lifestyle, but it's anything but, isn't it? So
I always say to people, don't think about retiring to a brewery because it's not a retirement job. You know, it is hard work. It's long hours. It's lifting things. It's you have to sort of be reasonably fit and willing to work. But the rewards are great. So yeah, it's 6.5 dozen other. Well, I'd say about 90% is amazing. 10% can sometimes be, oh my God, I'm tired. Or I could do with a break. This and the other. But you know, fundamentally great.
In the winter, say, you know, it's freezing cold outside. It's 6 o'clock.
Yeah, I don't do well with the cold either.
It's pitch black. I mean, to me, that's an absolute utter nightmare.
Yeah, you sort of, I don't know, sometimes you go on autopilot as well.
Right.
And so, you know, the jobs have got to be done for the day.
Yeah.
And so you get on and do them. It is hard on some days. Some days I'll walk in and see Becky and go, right, that's it, I've had it. That's it. Don't want to do brewing anymore. But it's great to just be able to vent it. Don't actually mean it. Sometimes I do think I mean it. But, you know, having a vent every now and again is great. I think as a business owner and being involved in the brewery is really fundamental for us. And it's what means that we're able to carry on without the stresses of, you know, how we're going to pay everybody or where's the finances going to come from. You know, we're working through it, you know, and yes, there's a new hurdle every day. There's something in the news that we look and think, oh God, how's that going to affect us?
Yeah.
But, you know, we've learned that, you know, we just need to pick ourselves up and go forwards on that. And as I say, the joys outweigh the sorrows. So as long as that keeps going, then we love what we're doing.
And talking about keeping going in the future, where would you want the brewery to be a little further down the line, 2, 3, 5 years' time? Could you ever see yourself stopping doing what you're doing?
Going forwards with the brewery, we're at a really good place at the moment. You know, we sell most of our product through our on-site tap room and shop. So we're at a level that's really good for us. Something that we built up during lockdown and has carried on since then. We've got a great local market. We are constantly keeping ourselves realistic, you know, looking at the market, looking where it is. We're brewing at a brew length now which we can sustain without getting ourselves into debt or anything. And that's the main thing for us, is to sustain what we're going through at the moment as a nation, and getting out the other side. From there, we have the potential to expand far bigger. We've purchased the brew house we can do that with. The future is difficult to predict in this industry as costs are rising, but we just take each hurdle as it comes.
But one thing you have got out here in your grounds is 10 amazing little pods, one of which we stayed in last night.
Yes.
Should we get Becky in to talk about the pods?
Absolutely.
They're warm, cosy, quiet.
Nice showers,
TV, everything you want, it's all there. And Becky from Missing Link is the person who's responsible for that side of the business.
Hello.
Now, so you've just relaunched.
Very much glamping. Yes, we've relaunched, and we've had the pods for a while, but they've been a sort of a separate thing on the estate. So we're bringing them under the Missing Link branding, and we'll be more looking after them. So when you check in, you'll come to the tap room, you'll meet us, you can have a chat, you can buy some beer, you can find maps, talk about walks, and have a bit more of an introduction to the estate as a whole before going down to your pod.
So it's literally a destination where you could come for the weekend.
Yes.
You can have beer and food. You can stay over there. It's lovely. You can go for walks.
Yes. We do the foraging. We've got a guy here who's an ecologist, and he does foraging walks, bat walks, badger watching. So you can come and do all sorts of things like that. So we always say you can come and you can spend the whole weekend in the tap room, go off and watch some badgers, go and see some foxes. You can do all that. Or you can sit in your pod and see nobody and completely kind of detox from everyday life. And we can just, bring you down some beer every now and again.
So for people who want to book one of the glamping pods, how do they do it?
It's all online. So it's missinglinkglamping.com, and you can just go online and book. There will be options for a one-night stay. So if you just want to come, experience the tap room, be able to tootle on down to your pod afterwards and have 1 night away from home, you can do that now, or you can book for as long as you want. There's lots of local attractions as well nearby. So we've got lovely Wakehurst Gardens, we've got Sheffield Park, which walking this morning, the bluebells are coming out, so it's going to be absolutely beautiful soon. I've got a photo ready for my social media of the first spotted bluebell.
Excellent.
And we have absolute carpets of bluebells here, so you can book online, you can book brunches, you can book arrival packs of some local produce, which we're going to have coming online. So, yeah.
And what's the cost?
They start at £99 a night.
Okay.
And we're going to have lots of offers as well. We're very kid-friendly.
Yes.
And for children, it's just perfect because you are in a field. They can't, unless they're really inventive, hurt themselves. Say that about kids. Obviously, they will find some way. But you're in a massive field, and one mum said to me, she said, it's great because they have to run quite a long way, quite fast before I can't see them.
Yeah.
So they've got all that space. There's spaces to have campfires. There's spaces. So we're building a new barbecue space as well. So there's lots of space for them just to run around and explore. We've got 360 acres. We've got ancient woodland. We've got Mesolithic rock formations that they can go and climb. All sorts of things to go and explore. So you don't need to leave the estate. You can spend the whole day finding these little things, these little magic waterfalls, exploring in the stream. I mean, when my daughter was younger, we used to enjoy going and excavating skulls. That was her hobby. So we used to go and find skulls and dig out skulls. We've got a huge herd of deer, so it's quite often you'll wake up in the morning and there'll just be a big herd of deer outside your pods.
Having sort of done this experience and eaten here and stayed here and drunk here, if you like beer and like to get away from it all, this is absolutely ideal.
You don't have to come to the tap room. It's not obligatory. We don't go down there.
You can't come here and not come to the tap room.
You're very welcome just to come and, like I say, just completely have a detox from life. Bring that big pile of books that you've been meaning to read forever and just curl up in your pod with a blanket. Which I'm quite tempted to do quite often.
But if people do come up to the tap room and they want some food, the food will be cooked by yourself.
Largely, yes. So we do all sorts of things. Historically, I run a catering company for the last 16 or so years. The two businesses were originally separate businesses. There was never an intention to really combine them beyond sort of parties and things like that. But I'm as control freakish and pedantic as my husband about food. So it's if I say so myself, it's very good food, yeah. And we try and keep it at a really reasonable price as well. So we try always with the sharing plates, particularly to have things that are under £10, because we've obviously brought up a family. And especially now, it's so expensive to eat out. But I want people to be able to come, to be able to feel that it was affordable and they've had a really lovely meal, and to be able to say, oh, we might come again this month, rather than it being this big treat to eat out, that it is actually affordable and they've had a really, really enjoyable meal and some really good beer.
One word you hear a lot these days, especially in craft beer and the wider world, is inclusivity. Tell us a bit about that and how it works here at Missing Link.
I don't think at Missing Link they have any choice but to be inclusive, because obviously Jeremy and I are basically co-owners. I am very influential with the tap room particularly, and we've got a great team of women, strong women who run the tap room, and we're not afraid to put our opinions forward. So sometimes it is in a lot of ways a very female-led business. So we're the people here. So Jeremy is often bringing us out the beers to try, what are our opinions on them, and he really does take those on board. So I've never been interested in beer before. Again, COVID sort of brought me into the business, and I'm learning very much about the nuances of flavour, about the hop profiles, about how different things affect the flavours. I didn't realise there were so many flavours in one drink. I always thought, it's a beer, they all taste the same. But so I've learned a huge amount about beer, and I'm really, really keen to bring that to women who might think that traditionally craft beer has been a male-orientated space. And when I say space, I think physically that's been translated into tap rooms. So you go to tap rooms and they can be sort of big, cavernous, quite unwelcoming spaces. They can be cold, so they're not very friendly to children or anybody that wants to sit there for more than sort of half an hour. When we converted the workshop into a tap room, I was very influential in how it was converted. One of the things that's very important is toilets. So we have really lovely toilets. We've got 3 proper toilets. We've also got an outside one for disabled, and it's got a big children's changing area. So it can also be used for older children that still need changing. We've made it very warm in here. It's fully centrally heated. We've got lots of radiators. We've got chairs. We've got lots of chairs as well as benches. It's a friendly, welcoming, warm space, and that has been really, really important to us.
So what we're saying here is that whereas historically pubs and tap rooms may have been the domain of the man, if you want, anybody is welcome here. Anybody can come here.
Anybody's really welcome, and we always say, because there's so much to learn about craft beer. Yeah. They are all so different. And so even if you come and you say, I don't really like beer, there'll be something. Yeah. I bet we can find something that you will like. So my daughter and I love the sours. We love the mandrel that we make in the summer. So even if you don't like any of the others, I pretty much guarantee you will enjoy the berry sour that Jeremy makes. We've got the cider here as well, which is made from apples on the estate. So there's that as well. So if you really don't want beer, and we've got a big range of gins. I'm a big gin fan, so we've got lots of local gins as well. But I love when women come and they want to try the beers, and they're like, they can see their face light up and go, this is actually really nice. We serve them at the proper temperature. And there's so many, so from the Howler, which is a Pilsner, right through to the Tamarind, which is really grapefruity. You can really get that grapefruit kick out of it. And I say to the sours, to the West Coast, they're so drinkable and fruity, and it's really nice to sort of see people be converted over to enjoying the beers. We've got Rachel who works here, who's a big beer fan. She's our manager, and one of her hobbies is going around and visiting tap rooms. So her influence here, as well as what she's experienced as a parent going to a tap room, a lot of her feedback in what makes it more comfortable and more inviting for families to come and for everyone to be able to enjoy it.
Here's a question for you. When Rachel's behind the bar here in the tap room, does she ever get discriminated against in her role here as a woman? Do people come in and think, oh, because she's a woman, she won't know what she's talking about? Do you see a lot of that? We do, and genuinely, yes, men come in. And the other thing that annoys me is a man will come in with a woman and she'll say, oh, I think I'll try that. And they'll go, oh, you won't like that, love. And you just
And so in those situations, Rachel will always go, no, just try a little bit. We always have shot glasses that we can give people little bits to try, and we will go through with people, and we always say, there's no such thing as a stupid question. I think again, it can be quite intimidating. You think everybody knows everything about beer, and so having a woman behind the bar in that respect, I think makes it easier for people to come and say, actually, I don't know anything about beer, but I like this. So what would you suggest? And it's a little bit of a kinder environment, possibly. So it's a learning environment as well. So we're really happy for people to come in and try to ask questions. And I think people are more inclined to ask questions of a sort of a woman than they may be of a man behind the bar.
Do you think attitudes are changing towards women in craft beer?
Yes, definitely. Absolutely. And I'm not sure that it's ever been something that's been within the industry in a way. Maybe it's been more perceived that it's been in the industry because it has been a very male-led industry. And in some respects, that's because it's a very physical job. There is a certain amount of physical strength needed to lift, get sacks in the hopper and all the rest of it. I think it is opening up, definitely. And we certainly have the attitude that we welcome anybody. Absolutely welcome anybody, and we've made a space that translates that as well.
Now, before we wrap up, if people want to get some beers, what's the website address? Because you do national delivery.
It's missinglinkbrewing.com, and we do national delivery, and we do a free local delivery as well.
Superb. Look, well, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast and talking to us, you and Jeremy, and thanks for having us as well.
You're very welcome to come back again.
We will come back again. Should we bring our kids next time?
No.
Nah. I don't think so.
Daft About Craft, the craft beer podcast.
Well, if you too would like to visit Missing Link and stay in one of their glamping pods, you can head to missinglinkbrewing.com, head to the glamping section, and use the code DAFT10 to get yourself 10% off a stay. Thanks a lot for listening to this bonus episode of Daft About Craft. Our next full episode is out the week beginning May the 8th.